So I am Sandy. I am a landscape architect also with Mend Collaborative. So I'm one of Michelle's colleagues here. I'm up in the Minneapolis office. Michelle's down in the Austin office. So we're very used to doing these virtual meetings. So we're pretty excited to have everyone here. Thank you all for attending. I think I'm actually going to hand it off to Apollonia then, and you can start off the City of El Paso introductions.
Thank you, Sandy. Hello, everybody. Apollonia Roldan. I'm an urban design manager with the City of El Paso, and I will also be the project manager for the All Abilities Playground. And I'll hand it off to my boss, Daniela Quesada.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Daniela Quesada. I'm the city architect for the City of El Paso. Happy to just bring support and any help with the engagement effort as possible to Apollonia and the rest of the team. So very excited about this project. I'll hand it off now to Marcela.
Hi, everyone. Marcela Tolini, Urban Design Manager with the City of El Paso, and I will also be supporting Apollonia in this effort. I'll hand it off to Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. Stephanie Barrios Urrieta with the City of El Paso, and I am also going to be supporting Apollonia with this effort. I'll pass it on to Alex.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Alex Huffman with the Capital Improvement Department. I work alongside Daniela and the rest of the team. I will be providing some additional support, and I'm going to hand it off now to Jonathan.
Hi there, Jonathan Robertson, Capital Improvements Project Manager and Capital Planning, here to provide support too. So how about Carla Chavez?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carla Chavez. I'm with the Parks and Recreation Department, and I will pass it along to Anna.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anna McCree. I'm the Public Affairs Coordinator for the Parks and Recreation Department. Not sure who else is missing.
I'm going to interrupt here, and I'm actually going to let Martin introduce himself too, since Martin's on the call.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Martin Bartlett from the Strategic Planning and Communications team at Consor Engineers. We are on the ground here in El Paso, really excited to be supporting MEND and the city team with the public involvement, which is going to be so incredibly important for this project. And let's see, with that, I will go to, let's see, Rhonda.
Hello, everyone. Rhonda Manning with the University of Texas El Paso Physical Therapy Program. Excited to be involved in this project. Pass it off to Leah.
Good afternoon, Leah Wood. I'm with Education Service Center Region 8, and I oversee transition. And I will pass it off to Miwa.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miwa Resurrection. I'm a president of the Autism Hope El Paso Inc. I'm so exciting and especially sensory friendly park planning staff. So thank you so much for having me today. I passing to Miss Diana Serrano, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Diana Serrano. I'm with Children's Disabilities Information Coalition. I'm the community outreach specialist there, and I'm happy to be here, and I will pass it on to Julia.
Hello, my name is Julia Vera. I'm a board member with Autism Hope of El Paso, and I'm also an employee with City of El Paso with District 3.
And you need to pass it on to somebody else.
I don't know who.
We were kicked out right now, so I don't really know who has gone.
I can pass it off.
Thank you.
Let's pass it to Ron.
Hello, can you get? I'm Ron Prieto. I'm with the Rio Grande chapter of the National Spinal Cord Injury Association.
Thank you, Ron. I also see a Cruz.
Yeah.
Michelle, we also have Ben 5 in the call as well. He just joined in.
Hi, Ben. Can you do a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, this is Ben Fife. I'm Managing Director of Cultural Affairs and Recreation with oversight of both the Parks and Recreation Department and Museums and Cultural Affairs Department. I was in pretty much every bond meeting, and this was one of the signature projects from this last November bond related to quality of life and the city's overall efforts to increase accessibility for all ability playgrounds throughout the community.
Good to see you, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. There's a few other folks. Stephanie, were you able to go? I don't think I heard you yet.
Me? Yes, I already went, but if you guys like, I'll introduce myself again. Stephanie Barrios-Urrieta with Capital Improvements. I'm an architectural intern, and I'm going to be providing support to Apollonia.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then there's, I think we're almost, Sandy, are we missing anybody? The only other person that I saw before I don't see them here anymore in our participation list, so.
Yep, I think that person may have dropped off. Okay, let's jump into it, Michelle. Let's tell everyone why we're here today.
Yes, exactly. And I'm really glad Ben was able to kind of reiterate that as part of the bond in November 2022 of quality of life, an all abilities playground, a regional playground where everybody to come together was very much supported by all of El Paso. So this is the process of planning that playground. But we're only in the planning stages here. We're not touching design or anything like that. We are trying to come up with the best playground for everything El Paso needs. So we have a series of questions today to help us through that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. I'm going to turn my camera off too because I have had some internet issues. So I'm going to do that and then share my screen. And then Sandy, I can't see all you guys when I do this. So Sandy will be monitoring to see if anybody has their hands raised or has questions during the process. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Sandy, did you want to say something?
Nope, I just wanted to let everyone know that there is a chat feature within Microsoft Teams. So if you want to utilize the chat, otherwise, there is also a raise hand feature. So if you have a question or a comment, before we sort of get to the group conversation points, feel free to raise your hand and then I'll let Michelle know that we have some input to record.
Great, thank you, Sandy, so much. So we're here today to spend some time with you guys. You are the experts. And what we want to hear a little bit about is we really want to hear from you about what we need to ask the broad El Paso community to better understand their needs for this playground. And we're specifically looking for feedback on survey questions, because we will share with you what our engagement strategy is, which includes a survey, and programming ideas. So that's will be our focus today is these survey questions, what should we have in a survey, and then programming ideas. As a quick run through of our agenda, we're going to quickly talk through what are we doing with the city of El Paso for the next 4 months or so to do engagement on this particular and exciting project. We're going to share a little bit of precedent research, so research of other all abilities playgrounds and the type of programming they have. We're also going to do, and then we're going to jump into some project visioning and goals and start brainstorming some of these survey questions and program ideas. So yes, I will be presenting at the beginning, but then we're really going to be going to you guys to ask your opinions. So as Sandy said, you can use the chat. I hope you feel really comfortable in using that feature, and or you can take yourself off mute and verbally tell us things as well. So again, a little bit about the team roles. Both myself and Sandy are representing MEND. We love these types of projects because essentially our entire company really appreciates community-led projects. We almost always focus on that, and we always have engagement opportunities throughout our projects. But we're also not in El Paso, so we are so lucky to have Martin as part of this team as well. And he's with Consor, and he introduced himself, but he will be our support on the ground. And then we also have Michael Cisco. He is a consultant that's going to help us with the geospatial analysis and the data that we need to take on where best to site a potential playground. So at the beginning of all of our processes, we always put together an approach. And I want to talk through some of those, the approach and our strategy goals. Really, we always want to make sure we inform the community of the project scope, timeline, and where there are opportunities to participate and provide feedback. So these are one of those meetings right now, but I'm also going to show you our timeline. So if you want to mark off some calendar times, that would be great because we will be having other opportunities to participate. We also, as part of our goals, is to gather data, including public attitudes, priorities, and values. And we want to try to talk to as many people as possible. We also try to identify populations that might have a larger barrier to engage. So as part of this as well, we will be doing a larger survey, and we will be translating that into Spanish so that the materials are more easily accessed. We also like to build capacity among stakeholders like yourself to sustain participation and interest and as part of the engagement. So we will definitely be back in contact with you guys. And then lastly, we want to catalyze public consensus and support for the community developed all abilities playground. So as I said, we have a bunch of different methods on doing this, and you are going to be invited back. So at the very beginning, we're at this first row. We're having a series of focus group meetings right now with experts like you to figure out what needs to go into our survey. What is important to ask people? What do we need to know? And then all the great information from you guys today, and then we're hosting another meeting tomorrow. We'll go into this online survey that will be on El Paso's Elevate site so that we can get the word out as quickly as possible. We also will be attending certain events. The city of El Paso and Martin will be at Chalk the Block, and they'll be getting the word out about the survey itself, but then also engaging with the public in a creative way around play. Then in November, we have a series of workshops. We're going to have a community workshop, a children's workshop, and a focus group workshop where we want to invite you guys back. And here we'll be doing more creative engagement in person to think about amenities and theming for the park itself. We also have a series of open public meetings that are going to be in person and virtual with different neighborhood associations and district representatives. And then lastly, we want to meet with this group again to report back what we heard. So we will be closing the survey at the end of November, and then we'll be taking that information, analyzing it, and seeing what are the main things that are high priority for the community for this all abilities regional playground. Here's an overall project schedule. It's pretty fast. We're at the very, very beginning. So beginning of October, as mentioned, we have a series of more virtual meetings. We have workshops in November, and then in December, and at the end of November, we'll be closing that survey with our final focus group meetings, hopefully in kind of mid-December time period. And then there will be a report where we report back what we heard from the community. And the hope is that all this data and information will lead to the next steps of the design of this playground and moving the project forward. With that, Sandy, I'm going to pause here and just see if anybody has any particular questions about these other opportunities to stay involved with the project.
And really quick, Apollonia put in the chat here the Elevate EP website, and that is a link to the city's engagement website where this project will have a page on that website, and that's where, as Michelle said, the online survey will be available on October 14th through that website. So feel free to open that up, bookmark it to save it for later when that survey does go live. There are no questions so far in the chat, so if anyone wants to come off mute, if there's any questions or comments so far.
All right, well, I will keep moving, and so we can get to the fun stuff, really. Okay, so we wanted to ground our understanding of All Abilities parks by just getting an understanding of what is usually offered. What do these things usually look like? What are the supporting amenities? Where are they located? And one of them we looked at was the Play for All Park in Round Rock, Texas. It opened kind of a while ago in 2012, but they have been going back in and adding to it, so expanding to it over time. Some of the key features that they have are retreat pods, sensory pods. They have a specific sandbox sensory play area. They have a rock band pod. They use rolling topography as a performance song, but also a place to roll. They have all sorts of All Abilities playscapes from different vendors and All Ability swings. They have a lifestyle or skills area. One of the interesting things too is they have a racetrack or trail that kind of loops through the playground and equipment. They have a train themed pod. And they also, a newer feature is a nature pod with treehouse. So this helped us just kind of get an idea, okay, what are the sorts of things that can go into these particular spaces? A more recently opened project is the James Driver Inclusive Park in Houston, Texas. This one, the biggest kind of design and programming move was very exaggerated topography. So they had these series of hills that then they built the play structure between, almost like a bridge. They have All Ability spinners, custom swings. They have something called Beep Baseball, which is a sound-based baseball game. They have a sensory garden, fitness stations, climbing features. They have a water play pavilion and restrooms, which are supporting amenities. And then lastly, and most recently opened out of the ones we saw, but farther away, is the Hidden Creek Park West, which is in Hillsboro, Oregon. This particular park had a very strong theme. They went with this forest theme. And so one of the biggest elements was this large forest giant sculpture that was also a play feature. They had water play, exercise equipment, game areas. So they had areas for different age groups, climbing structures, forts, swings, other kind of All Abilities, playscape, shade, parking, and restrooms. So another really interesting one. And I think, as we move along with this, one of the things Sandy and I immediately did is say we need some sort of organization to the way we talk about the All Abilities playground, because generally, if you say it's for All Abilities, we could go in a million different directions. So we did break things down into categories that we hope will help us. And with that, I am going to transition over to our whiteboard. So this is a really cool feature where you'll be able to watch us populate this board with your thoughts and additions today. And we also have some examples. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't just leaving you hanging, and we gave you some ideas of what we're looking for.
Michelle, really quick.
Yes.
If you can flip back to the presentation, Diana has requested to see the previous slide again to finish reading it.
Absolutely. Okay. How's that?
That's
can
good.
zoom.
Yep,
Awesome.
we're good. All right, if you want to flip back. Thank you, Michelle.
No problem. Absolutely. Whenever I go too fast, you've got to remind me. So we are going to jump into visioning, but first I wanted to talk about these categories. You know, when we say all abilities, we're hoping people feel really welcome. But without a set of categories, we kind of feel lost on how exactly to set this up. So we went back through looking at those precedent projects, the projects that have all abilities playgrounds already, and we looked at some reference material on how best to plan and program these particular playgrounds. And we came up with these main categories. And this is what we're going to go through today. And we're hoping each of these categories is going to help us to build out the survey questions for the community. So the main categories we have today, and of course we want to hear if we missed any major ones as well, are physical play, social and group play, sensory play, and we break that down further, which we'll talk about in a moment, cognitive and imaginative play, calming and quiet areas, supportive programming, sort of the comfort and safety elements of the park, multi-generational opportunities in play. We have a short thing on themes. And then lastly, these last two are what is adjacent needs and access and adjacencies to avoid. All right, so before we jump into each of those categories, we wanted to think of a vision. We like to have some sentence that encapsulates our feeling about this all abilities playground in El Paso. And we've done a little bit of brainstorming so far with our City of El Paso team, but we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to weigh in on this as well. So during our last brainstorm, a few folks said, the All Abilities Playground in El Paso is a place where everyone in our community can take advantage of our city parks, regardless of their abilities. Another option was All Abilities Playgrounds in El Paso is a place where everyone can play without barriers. And finally, another one was our All Abilities Playground in El Paso is a place where you can be a kid and move your body with joy. So I want to pause here and see if any of these sound exciting to you, and or if you want to propose a few other suggestions as well.
And feel free to come off mute if you want to talk through your thoughts, or feel free to pop anything in chat if any thoughts come to mind.
What do you guys think about positivity and play?
I think that's great. Thank you, Mike. We're gonna see, and then now you get to see how interactive this thing is. So Sandy's going in and she's gonna be adding your thoughts from the chat or when you guys speak. Any other thoughts?
Possible to combine all three of those statements. So everyone in our community can take advantage of our city parks, regardless of their abilities, play without barriers, and move their body with joy.
Really liking that. And I'm sure we can add positivity into that as well if we combine three. But any others?
I have a suggestion that's not on there now, because there's a lot of diversity in society. I'm not sure if anybody would agree with me to also include that it will be accessible to everyone regardless of background, race, gender, sexual orientation, and all that. Everything that comes with it.
Equity, absolutely. Beyond equality to equity. Excellent. Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, these are great ideas.
So this is
all
Ben,
in-
and I would
all
say
inclusive
that
was, oh, sorry, Ben. Really quick in the chat, Jonathan popped in here, all inclusive. Go ahead, Ben.
That's
I
what I
would
heard
say
when she
having,
spoke. Yeah, so
having worked with a lot of families sort of on the conversations that led up to the bond, I would just say it is somewhere that moms and dads don't have to think about or pre-plan with kids with different abilities or special needs. So often you hear from families like this, they've really got to call ahead, make sure, you know, there's going to be ways for them to get in, for parking. You know, what is the sensory experience going to be like for kids who are on the autism spectrum? I think this is really somewhere they don't have to do any of that. They can just get in the car and go and have a great experience without a lot of pre-planning.
That's great.
Yeah, Ben, thank you for that too. And we would love to have your feedback when we get to the multi-generational aspects of this as well, because I think that touches on where we were thinking for that particular category. Any others? I'm going to take a look at our time. We're doing okay on time, which is great.
Yep, we have one more in the chat here. Heart to heart, fun and happy place. I like that.
Oh, that's great.
I just download them that one, and you know, especially and I'm talking behalf of autism community. Our children is so hard to go to regular park. You know, they wanna play, but then they cannot talk about, you know, they don't know how to join the play with another children. And but then Mr. Jonathan said inclusion is so important. I believe you are new in the park, they can meet on like a similar condition, ADHD or autism or another ability children. They can be more comfortable and they feel happy and fun. They want to come back again. Just want to let you know and thank you so much for planning this amazing project.
No, there's a lot of really great thoughts there. Thank you so much. Let me try and capture some of them.
Thank you, Miwa. I think that was great. I saw at one inclusive park, I saw a sign where they used not a bunch of language, but they used images of people's faces, happy, sad, joy, those sorts of things to describe some of the park features, which I thought was an interesting thing too. Different ways of communicating. All right, so Sandy, I think I might move to the next slide. Are you feeling good with that?
Yeah, I just Carla and Apollonia had a couple comments in the chat that I popped in here. And then we have another one. Yeah, I think we're kind of getting into some comments regarding what we want to touch on for the next activity, Michelle. So I think we move on.
Excellent. Thank you, though. And if you guys want to revisit this one, we will come back. It's always hard whether you do this one at the beginning or the end, or maybe both. Okay. So yes, we decided to break our survey questions into these main categories just to help us organize our thoughts. And again, we are trying to get to a series of survey questions, but the way we thought we might get about it is starting to lay out what are some of those physical play elements that we know we want to or we would like to get feedback on from the community on whether they want it or not, right? So that's what we're going to be doing with every single category here, and it's the same sort of setup. So you can add things in chat, or you can also take yourself off mute. So the first question and the first category is physical play. I put some examples in here of a pathway or a track, or for example, all ability swings. Physical play is some way of moving, and it may not be the same way for everybody of moving their bodies, but joyful way of moving your body and being physical. All right, with that, I'll pause and let people give us some suggestions.
I'm really glad you brought up the walking track. So what a lot of unfortunate play areas forget or aren't able to address is the visually impaired community. So if there was a walking track with rails where someone that's visually impaired could follow the rail for exercise, for exploring the park, that would be a really big thing.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's really great.
Another great example as you visit other parks in San Antonio, Morgan's Wonderland and Morgan's Camp has done some incredible things to make all of their facilities super accessible.
Thank you for those references too. We'll check those out. What else?
Miwa has posted in the chat if small park size, only an entrance, exit, and all around fence, in case there's anyone that wants to escape.
Great, and that one also can go in comfort, so we'll keep that one in mind. I saw
Yep, for
somebody with
sure.
a hand up for a minute, I think Sandy as well.
Yes, Ron, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I want to say that in El Paso, they just said recently that they had opened an, I guess maybe accessible park, but I'm not sure what that is or what it's like as far as like our group. The main things would be like accessible swings, merry-go-rounds, as far as being able to get to things that somebody that is in a wheelchair that they can actually get on and off the equipment. But yeah, I was just wondering as far as the new park it opened in El Paso, if anybody knows exactly what was done there that made it more accessible or.
Hi, I know on Northeast, this April they open all accessible and the park next to I'm sorry, forgot the park's name, but that is really nice park.
Has anyone been to that park, and are there any features for physical play that you would like to see in this future All Abilities Park? I see there's
well,
just looking at photos of it, there's a zip line.
Was that you, Carla? I think you were gonna say
Sorry.
something.
No, that was me. Sorry, Diana. For physical play, I know Mike mentioned the rail. For those of us that are slowly losing our eyesight, I believe something that would also be helpful, and I know that it is an issue for me. I am able to see, but I'm slowly losing my vision. And I know that when there's a lot of like steps here and there, that's not really helpful because I end up tripping from time to time. So I'm not sure if maybe, and I don't know how you would phrase it in English, but maybe not a step, but like the rubbery I don't know what it's called, but instead of cement, maybe have the rubber platform instead of cement. So that would help as well. And then for a lot of people that have a visual disability, I know that physical activity, it just doesn't refer to walking. We have to also think of those acquaintances that we have that do have a visual disability, but they might not be able to walk. So physical activity for them, it might also include like musical instruments, like, and I saw one in Albuquerque when I took my son, but they had like a human-sized giant xylophone with wind chimes and other things that the people and the kids could actually use. So that might be something to consider in case if the people that have a visual disability can't walk. That way, if they're wheelchair mobile, they are also able to, you know, work with their hands, their arms, and things like that.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think that could cross a couple of these different categories between physical play and sensory. We have a hand up, Magdalene.
Yes, ma'am. What about location of the park?
Can you expand on that a little bit? Is it
Like, is the park, you're gonna have one park located in El Paso, but what part of El Paso where families may have to travel further than others?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, and we have an area, a category, let's see, about what is nearby or what do you need to have. So right here, adjacent needs and access. So we will be getting into that as well, but thank you for bringing it up and we can add that in here. Perfect. What else for physical play? Any others before we move to the next category?
Miwa, I see your hand is still up.
Yes, ma'am. I suggested like a sandbox. Some artistic and the kids is very like sand is kind of. Even myself, I don't like touching sands, but then sandbox maybe can be a more like a sensory friendly kind of material. Kids can play at sandbox, but the different stuff inside.
Yeah, I might move that over to the sensory slide, Miwa, for when we get there. But I'll keep it on physical because we all know kids like to throw sand and stuff around too.
Yeah, and some of these kind of overlap. We realize that as well, but thank you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, should I go to the next one? And, you know, if something does come up where it relates to physical play, we will just, you know, let us know and we will add it in however we, even on other pages. So anything is welcome. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to get to
just a quick add in, I guess, under physical play, I guess we're looking at different types of toys and swings and other stuff, but just maybe some more of the traditional things as far as like tennis and basketball and other things that are maybe more active, I guess, to be kind of considered.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you for that, Ron.
Sorry, Michelle, I'm kind of curious about that from this group. When it comes to things like, you know, courts, like basketball or something that requires more of a court space, is it more, you know, the full size basketball court that an all abilities playground would be most successful to see, or would it be more the sort of the skills of shooting at a hoop and having multiple hoops around? Are there any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess it just depends on the different ability that the person might have, because like, for example, if I'm representing my own child who's on the spectrum, there's no eye-hand coordination with him, and he recognizes that. He has told me, you know what, Mom, like, I can't focus. So with him just having like a small little basket, he's happy with that. But you know, if it's a different ability, and I know a few young adults that are also on the spectrum, you know, they play basketball pretty well. So they're gonna need a full-size court. If we focus on our friends and acquaintances that use a device like to move around a wheelchair, you know, they enjoy having the full-size court too, but there's others that just use a half court. So I guess it just depends. The only thing I can imagine to have it inclusive for everyone, just have a full-size court and maybe have different sets of times that it can be used, like from such and such time, you know, it will be open for such and such a community from time to time, this time to this time. It will be for, you know, I'm just throwing out random stuff out there, but it just depends.
No, and I agree. If it's a full-size court, you have the ability to have leagues created for kids with different abilities. The thing I would add that would be possibly a button at the basketball pole. So if someone is visually impaired, they press the button and there's a chime that chimes underneath the basketball rim, so that way they can locate that where they're going to shoot. But I agree that if you go full-size basketball court, it opens up the possibilities for some sort of league.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of transitions into this group social and group play prompt here too. Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you could also, I mean, adapt the full-size court to accommodate, I guess, some of the different, like at different heights of the basketball, I guess, what do you call it, hoop or different things like that. But yeah, because that's kind of a, I guess there's kind of a shortage, and I'm thinking of full-size areas too, or accessible full-size areas.
Mm-hmm.
What about tennis courts?
Yeah, also.
Are there other types of social or group play that anyone has any? You've seen it successful at other areas, or you haven't seen it, but you would like to see it?
I know us personally, we used to love going to the Miracle League, but now that my son is older, now he's 13, the kiddos that mostly go to the Miracle League, you know, they're either younger, and my son now verbalizes to me, you know what, I miss playing with kids my age. So like the different activities that he used to be involved when he was a toddler, he doesn't feel comfortable enough. So now we just go to whatever park we can find. And when there's not a lot of people, that's when we take him out to play kickball, or, you know, he just flies his paper airplanes. So I guess right now, other than the agency, I'm speaking as a parent as well, because I know for my boy, there's no eye-hand coordination. So there's not a lot of sports that he feels comfortable playing. So I think for this inclusive park, I believe like a free space or a free area would be nice to have, like for frisbees, airplanes. I know those are things that my son enjoys, and it involves everything. Physically, he's moving, you know, he's either running or walking. It just depends on his mood and on his physical disability that interferes with him from time to time. But it also includes, you know, the sensory. He might be laying down, just playing with the airplanes, the frisbee, you know, he's going back and forth. So it might be nice. So I'm just thinking outside the box, not just thinking of all the other sports. I'm just thinking of things that my kid personally can do. And I'm thinking of the kids that I have encountered at our office. You know, there's a lot of things that they're not able to do, and they've been excluded at other agencies or even just at a regular public park. And it's activities that we have played with them when we go to health fairs. You know, we might have something else for them to do, like the frisbee, the airplanes. I know those are just a few, and we had even checkers for them. So just an open space would be nice if it's considered.
Hey,
You could add pickleball to that list.
pickleball.
Thank you.
Can I say that then about like a court, tennis court, basketball court? Depends on if we focus that then for disability and person, we have to put like a guys maybe knows like what kind of a very cushy one. If somebody fell off, not gonna hurt, kind of stuff. But that is, you know, if I'm like all inclusions, everybody come play. If one part is came off, cost is couple hundred to 1,000 for square feet. So we have to think about this one supposed to be for only disability people. Everybody can play, but every single year have to fix that tennis court or basketball court.
Great. Thank
Thanks,
you for
Miwa.
all these. Thank you, Miwa.
Ron's hand is up as well.
Yeah, just real quick, and I'll be quiet after this. Yeah, I'm just bringing up El Paso, just to bring up a little history of the area. I guess it's been 10, 15 years. They had built a multi-purpose center that had a swimming pool, and I don't know if swimming or any kind of water activities will be included in this thing. But yeah, there were a lot of things that were good things, and then they had a lot of difficulties with different things. And it looks, I don't even know if it's open anymore. It looks like it's totally under construction. But they used to have a multi-purpose center here that was initially designed for, I guess, all abilities.
Yeah, we're hoping to talk more about water opportunities in this next category here. So that's a good sort of a good segue into this next section here.
Right. And a lot of you guys have already mentioned some of these. So Sandy's been moving them over. But a big category in all abilities play is sensory play. How do we use our different senses, whether it be sound, touch, sight, or scent? So we have some examples down at the bottom for water, like a mister. For sound, drums. Touch, you could have sand. For sight, you could do things bright and colorful, like a mosaic. Or for scent, you could even think about herb gardens or other sort of native plants that smell really great. So we're going to pause here and see if you guys have any thoughts about this one as well.
Miwa, your hand is up.
Sorry, and accidentally raise up. Please ignore me.
This is Mike. I had a couple of thoughts on
Sure.
this.
Go ahead.
Number one, I don't know where in Colorado, but I know that there is several opportunities for wheelchair gardening. The way certain garden beds are raised and extended out, it would be great for obviously the decor of the park, but it'd be a possibility to create a wheelchair gardening club, so that way people can enjoy the place, but also help keep it beautiful. The other thing is, I had mentioned Morgan's Wonderland. They have interactive fountains where you can turn different knobs, different wheels. They're large, they're small, and they will cause water to fall in different areas into these fountains. So you can interact with the fountain decor. And there's even an area where when you press certain buttons, the water sprays onto symbols. So you could water play and also create music with the water play.
That's very cool. I want to go there.
It is quite impressive. And so the other, as far as El Paso, I think we exceeded 66 days in triple digits. So water play, I agree, is going to be very big in El Paso. Misting areas where people just can grab shade. El Paso is a very dry climate, so misters do make a big difference in El Paso. So if there's areas where kids, if they become overstimulated quickly just because of the heat, if there is a couple of areas with misting, it would allow people to enjoy the park throughout the afternoons.
Great, thank you. Miwa, your hand is up.
Yes, ma'am. I really like the idea for an splash pad and water place. It's like even like a wheelchair. Persons can go through and splash water. So as like kids safety, they don't like swimming pool. We have to always watching somebody is on the drawing. But then splash pad is so easy and they never get an life danger. So thank you.
Thank you. There's just a couple things in chat here too that I want to pop in here. So there's a site sensory suggestion here using black, red, and yellow that helps with those that have cortical vision impairments. Another chat here that pickleball is loved, but it does make big noises and kids might not like that. So that's definitely a good thing to note. And we do have a section later on here to talk about things that we want to avoid in this park as well due to sensory issues. And then we also have another comment here that movement itself is a big sensory experience. So it's always good to keep in mind that a lot of these things are interrelated.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandy. And I might move to the next one. I'm just keeping track of our time and we want to make sure we end promptly at 4 o'clock so everybody can move on to their next thing. So I am going to go to the next category. Is that okay with you, Sandy?
Yeah, I'm just looking at our slides. We might have to move a little. No, we might be good, Michelle. Let's just keep going.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the next one, we had this more cognitive, and we put cognitive and imaginative play together, even though they are slightly different. And imaginative play can work with cognitive play as well. But one of the things we put out here is a learning wall. So there are different play features that are based off of kind of learning a little lesson as you're out there. Imaginative play to me is more like a space, like the shell of a house where you can pretend and do life skills inside the house and have fun with friends and kind of pretend you're a family. I think I saw a hand up.
Yes. So one of the things I've seen at some of the playgrounds is a communication wall where the PEX symbols are up and people are able to use them to help communicate what they're seeing and what they're feeling. And I think that kind of plays into the communication or the cognitive and imaginative part, is giving kids who may not use their words a way to communicate and to be able to play with other kids that way.
Very cool.
What about the possibility of a outdoor stage for events and imaginative play, and where they can go up there and sing or whatever they do is up on a raised stage that's wheelchair accessible?
Love that. One comment in the comments here in the chat, active learning has some great ideas that could be incorporated, and then a link here. So I'll pop that in the notes. Thank you for that. A little room that incorporates sound and sensory. We'll take a look at that. Thank you so much, Leah. Can we move to the next category, Michelle, if there's no other thoughts here? There's nothing in chat.
Okay, if anything comes up for this particular one, just let us know and we'll add it in here. So we'll move to the next one. So another theme that we commonly see is really having a kind of a diversity of spaces. In a playground, sometimes the activity is really intense. You know, kids are having fun, they're running everywhere, they're playing together, and sometimes you need an area to just kind of refocus and quiet and have a little quiet. So some parks are adding these cozy domes or these spaces for calming and quiet. Is that something we should consider for the All Abilities Playground? And how have you seen kind of cool ways different parks have deployed this? And Sandy, you might want to describe a cozy dome because I personally haven't seen one.
Yeah, it's this is just one example of sort of a calming area or a calming device for a child that might become overstimulated in a busier environment. So it's sort of a little dome shape that has some holes in it, so a kid can sort of go in there and sort of have that feeling of being enclosed and you know, sort of taking a break from some of the busyness that can happen in a play area. But there's also holes in it. So, you know, caregivers, family members, other kids can also look in and make sure that whoever's in there is safe. So if there's any other ideas like this, you know, I've seen this as, you know, taking form of a more natural shape, maybe, you know, willow, branches forming sort of this cozy dome shape or idea, or if there's something very different that in your experience you've seen kids enjoy for having a more calming experience. Miwa, your hand is up.
Yes, I really like that small dome. Make kids calm, and also I wanna put on like a little bit textured kind of carpet, like a grass kind of carpet, and the floor. So if kids wanna, you know, had a meltdown, climb there, just lay down, touching to and the grasses, you know, fake grasses. I think that's more. I think also make calm down too.
Great. We have another hand up. Diana?
Yes, thank you. So I have, and I've always thought about this, so I don't know if I'm a little weird about thinking about this, but I know not everybody thinks about things like this when they're planning for the future. I'm kind of curious to know, and I know it's something that you guys don't even know, but it's something to consider, how far away the actual parking lot is going to be from the play area. And I'm thinking about the sensory issues, because I know that if a car has a loud muffler or it's a motorcycle, I know my child will elope. And now that he's older, it's very, very difficult for me to keep up with him. So that's something to consider. How far away will the parking lot be? Because people have different kinds of cars, different kinds of, you know, vehicles, engines, motors. So they make a lot of loud sounds. And I know that that is an issue when we go to public parks. I make sure, you know, that I try to keep them far away from where the cars are. I try to park far away as well. So it's something just to consider, because there are kids and even adults, there are adults that will, you know, get scared, or they'll elope whenever they hear loud sounds. So it's something to consider.
No, that's really great. We have a few slides on. We have a section where we want to ask about things like supportive stuff like that, and stuff to think about when it comes to parking lots and other stuff like that. So I have it on this slide, and I also put it on that slide for us to revisit. So thank you so much. We have one comment in the chat, a landscape barrier or some other type of barrier to minimize sound traveling from the parking lot to the park. Also great. So I'm going to pop that in here.
All right, Sandy, and if people are slowing up on this particular slide, we can move to the next one.
Yeah, I don't see any other hands up and I don't see anyone typing in the chat. So I think we can move on.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, a few of us have already started talking about this, but it's great. Again, all these things are really highly connected. When Sandy and I were brainstorming about this, we thought this playground has got to have supportive programming. And so what we mean by that is that the playground itself is great, the equipment is great, but what if does there need to be restrooms? Does there need to be benches and picnic tables? What are those things to provide comfort and to provide safety? And then we also wanted to get into this second bullet point. What are the multi-generational needs? But let's first start with the first one, and then we can give you a prompt for the next one, if that's okay, Sandy. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
All right, so what are those supportive programming needs for an All Abilities playground?
And just to make a note here, that fence was mentioned a few slides previous, so I just copied that sticky note because a fence is one of those supporting needs that provides comfort and safety for those using the playground.
Would like family style restrooms be, I guess, fall into that category?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Great. Miwa, your hand is up.
Yes, I had like a very sexual abuse happen to a public restroom very often. So we can put a men's restroom. Women's restroom is a very opposite side. So this kind of stuff is less happening.
Thank you. Diana, your hand is up as well.
Thank you. What about adult changing stations? A lot of times we just think of the kiddos, but there are adults that are in need of the adult changing station as well. So that would be good to have as well.
And Rhonda also put that same suggestion in the chat. So I'm gonna copy what Rhonda put in the chat. So changing for larger children and adults. And Diana, your hand is still up. I just want to make sure you don't have a follow-up to that.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Thank
you.
you.
No. I just want to make sure we're capturing all your comments here. So it sounds like a pretty good emphasis on comfort facilities, restrooms, changing areas. Are there any other supportive programming that if you visit other parks that is really great to have there or you wish was there outside of the play equipment? In the chat, we have seating areas, benches, lots of shade. We know shade is a big one in El Paso, so. Michelle, maybe we move on to the next prompt, the multi-generational needs.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah. So as we were thinking about this, we know that there is a place for young adults at this playground for sure. But a really successful playground is multi-generational, where the caretakers, adults, family members, friends can also have a really nice time. And a few parks do it differently. Like for example, the Oregon Park in Hillsboro, with that big giant forest creature, they have separate areas for games like ping pong, and they have fitness equipment, which to me indicates that that might be for adults, and it's in a different kind of separated space away from the playground equipment. So they kind of separated those. And one of the things we wanted to investigate with you guys, is it important to integrate ages across, like safely, of course, where it can be done safely. We realize you don't want a sports court with some play structure in the middle, but is it better to integrate different ages together where there are opportunities with play features, or to keep them separate? And I myself, I have a 5-year-old. I go back and forth on this one, you know. And Sandy, I think you do too. So we'd love to get your take on this. And then also, if there's anything else for different age groups that we should consider, please add that as well.
I'm not sure where this one might fit, but when it comes to considering what type of fencing this All Abilities Park will have, I would like to see something that's not easily, and I don't even know if this is a word, something that's not easily climbable for kids that have fine motor and sensory issues, because I know that it has been an issue when we've had different events with different organizations. We usually try to use the Memorial Park enclosed area, since that's one of the few that's enclosed. But we've noticed that when we have events with kids on the spectrum, you know, they're challenged. I guess the fence is a challenge for them. So we all have to be running to make sure that the kid doesn't climb and go over the fence. And it's a tall fence for me, but I mean, their abilities, they're strong. They're strong and they climb super fast. So I don't know if maybe there can be something suggested so it won't be easily climbable, or maybe they're persuaded to play with the fence instead of them jumping over it. I don't know, maybe those that are familiarized with the spectrum can get an idea of the message that I'm trying to send.
No, wait, we hear you. There's definitely different types of fencing, and some is climbable and some is less easily climbable. So we hear that. Well,
What
Michelle, I
else?
don't see any other hands up or, yeah.
Okay, I was going to just see if there's any other thoughts on the multi-generational overlap, on the ages. What else should we consider?
Yeah, and we're
I
asking
think
this question because we're really looking at, you know, how the size of facility that's really driving you know, what we're looking for here. So, you know, if we're hearing a lot from the community that, you know, other, you know, non-playground equipment, you know, we were talking about sport courts, or, you know, if there's other stuff like other types of fitness equipment or other features for multi-generational, that really helps us understand the size and scale of this park.
And I think you're addressing that multi-generational, like you said, with like the basketball court talk, the talk about a stage, the talk about a walking track, because they will all be multi-generational.
Yeah, yep, that's a really good point. I'm just going to copy those stickies over here. Note about sprinklers for safety. Great. I think, Michelle, we can potentially move on to the next slide. I don't see any more hands or chat going, so.
Excellent. Yeah, we only have 2 more where we're getting input, and then we're going to just revisit our schedule. So just to make sure you guys know when there will be other times to participate. So we're going to get into themes a bit more when we visit and we do some workshops, but we wanted to start the discussion now and to include potentially in the survey. And so thematic play areas can be really successful. And we have a few examples here, like one theme could be the desert landscape that's maybe based off of more nature play and natural materials. Another one could be like, you know, railroad and trains kind of themed. And I wanted to see if there's any themes that come to mind for you that seem really exciting for the All Abilities Playground. The theme also could be different sections of the playground, so it might not be a theme for the entire playground, but a section of it as well.
I think a lot of, I guess areas have, we talked about interactive music play, if there was a music area, just because music is universal.
That's great. Thank you.
Also know a lot of theme parks are themed with, I guess, the way the park is broken down. For example, Disney is like Toontown, which is everything's cartoon, and then there's Adventure Land, and I was like, and that I think opens it up to break up the area with themes like you're mentioning, where you could tell your kids, I'll be, you know, in the music area, Music Land. So that may also help kids that may not have the ability to memorize a whole lot, but don't know that's the music area, that's the Western area, that's the desert play area. So I do think that the themes will be very important for the park.
That's a great point, Mike, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Color, symbols, names, all very important.
Maybe that can be something that can also be asked to the children, because I mean, I know that we've all been kids, but, and I know I get, and I even wrote a comment there in the chat, how about locally submitting art by our children or adults with different abilities? I mean, we all have different tastes, different likes. I know Mike mentioned Disney. Ms. Leah is mentioning a Wild West theme. It would be great because everybody likes different things. So maybe just having like a collage of a lot of the things that our kids like, that would be good too, not just focusing on one theme.
Yeah, I like that. Incorporating art as a potential.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I just popped a couple more from the chat here. Wild West theme and desert animal.
Great. Excellent. Well, looking at the time, since we only have about 10 more minutes, I'm going to go to what I think is our last slide where we're getting input. But we're going to also show you that schedule one more time so you guys can be aware of any other engagement opportunities coming up. So our last question and prompt is really about adjacent needs. So what would you need to get access to this park? And I have some examples, right? An adjacent need, an example might be public transportation. And then also on the flip side what are the adjacencies to avoid? So one of the adjacencies to avoid is maybe a busy roadway, right? A really loud noises. Somebody mentioned, or Diana, I think mentioned as well, like being a little bit farther away from the cars in the parking lot. So there, I'll pause here and let you guys add some thoughts on this prompt.
Public transportation for sure is a comment in the chat. Does everyone here most commonly use a personal vehicle to get to play areas, or is that what you see most commonly done?
I think the public transportation is the one that definitely helps, like you mentioned earlier.
Another comment is having it be more centrally located.
What do you consider centrally located?
It all depends on what side of town you live on.
Exactly, that's why I'm laughing.
Well, and that's my point. If we put it far east siders will use it, west siders won't. If we put it west siders will use it, east siders won't. If we put it lower valley, the same thing happens. So I think it would have to be in an area that's as equal distance from everything as entirely possible. I don't know.
I think this is one of those things that I would be almost impossible for everybody to agree on, since everybody's from a different part of town, whether you're trying to place it closer to underserved areas like Tornillo, Fabens, Clint, but they do have a park that they opened over there, or like you said, the west side. It's like it's gonna more likely see what the Parks and Rec are willing to offer up as a space that may be large enough.
Yeah, and we have a process that we're starting as part of this project that's going to look at a lot of that data regarding communities that might already be served by accessible play features, communities that are least accessible, looking at transportation, all types of services that can really help us start identifying that. And that's something that will eventually come as part of this project process. But we really want to start here and really, get from this group what we need to look at as far as, what is really necessary to make this the most successful all abilities playground. So the most amount of people can really access it and get to it and use it successfully.
And I think what would help people decide, no matter what side of town they're on, if you were able to get maybe 3 or 4 locations and say, this is the acreage here that's available. This is how close it is to public transportation. This is how far it is from major roadways for noise purposes. And I think that would help people who, let's say, they lived on the west side, but realized that there was an option that was larger in northeast or central. that was larger acreage and had more room for growth, they may be more open to vote for something that may not be on their side of town, but they know has more potential for growth and success because of where it's located for public transportation or noise purposes.
Yeah, that's great. That point of having larger acreage, room for growth, that's a really interesting thing to consider. All right, Michelle, there's no more hands up.
Sorry.
Nothing else. Oh, no, go ahead.
Sorry. I wanted to mention, because I know that everything costs money. So I'm not just thinking about what I would like to have for our kids. I'm also thinking of the cost, the budget, and things like that. So also considering, our weather here, how long, I know it's in the works, but how long is it going to last for our families? Weather-wise, erosion-wise, with the rain that we get here, how often are we going to be having to renovate it? Because compared to other public parks, it would really suck if we do make this happen, but then the park being closed due to repairs and things like that, which is something very common here in our city. A lot of our parks, they undergo construction. Just to throw one of them out, I know that my boy really misses the Modesto Park. It has been closed for the longest time, and that's one of the few parks where my son can roam freely without being judged. So when it comes to the location, just to keep in mind that it's going to be a way, or if you guys can do your studying, like the city can do the studying of, have we had any sinkholes in the nearby neighborhood? How many times do the streets get repaired here? Because going back to accessibility, all that will affect the way that people will be able to get to that park.
That's great. Thank you. All good stuff for us to look at and consider.
But going back to what Mike mentioned, if people like the park, people will make the drive. And that's just I wanted to use myself as an example because I live in the far east in the county. I live in Sparks, and we would drive every day to Central just to take my son to Modesto Park so he could run freely over there. So, and when we didn't have a car, I would take the transit, and I would spend 3 hours in the transit just so my son could have access to a place where he could be at peace.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really great.
Great. Well, Cindy, I'm
yeah,
wondering
thanks, Michelle.
I'm wondering if we should kind of wrap things up here. I mean, I think first and foremost, thank you all so much. So thank you. We know this took up plenty of your time. We really think that you being involved with this process is going to make the project excellent. So thank you. I also wanted to flash this schedule back up to talk through about other opportunities to be involved. So we definitely would love for you guys help us disseminate and get the word out about the online survey. That is going to be our way of really reaching as far and as wide as we can in El Paso, because El Paso's big. And so please help us get the word out about that. Again, it will be on El Paso's Elevate website, and there'll be more to follow on that. We're hoping to get that out and rolling by end of week next week, so pretty soon. And then an in-person event that's coming up soon is the Chalk the Block event. I think our team will be out there on Saturday with the city of El Paso, just kind of getting people to see the survey, find out where it is, and then we might have some fun activities there. At the beginning of November, there'll be some workshops, and one of them you'll be invited again. The workshop will be more, again, it'll be in person, a little bit more creative, and we'll be thinking more about theming. And then lastly, you'll hear from us one final time at the end of the process where we're going to report back what we found out from the survey and from all the other engagement events, so that we don't leave you in the dark about what great things we learned. But with that, I think we're going to adjourn unless anybody has anything else to say today before we do so.
I just want to make a comment. If you guys haven't planned it like that, but will the survey be ADA accessible, and will it also be in Spanish, not just in English?
Yes, ma'am. The survey will be in Spanish. And then, yes, we are looking at fonts and styles that make it easily readable and accessible to as many people as possible. And we can talk to the city to see if there can be printed copies as well. So people could request a printed copy. We are also going to have a brand for this process, and we are looking at accessible fonts and colors that multiple different people's abilities of seeing color, it'll still read the colors and everything. So thank you for that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know there's a lot of things that were posted but not described. So if you have somebody that you consult with that has visual impairment that cannot see the screen, to make sure that it is going to be able to read it through whatever screen reading program they use.
Great, we'll look into that. Any other comments, suggestions? Well, thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk soon. We'll be in contact with you again. All right.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.